The bright California sun felt strange on Lily's blue-tinted skin as she stepped out of the transport pod. Earth's star was younger and more intense than the one she had grown up under, and she found herself grateful for the protective layer of sunscreen the orientation team had insisted she apply. Around her, the spaceport buzzed with activity as humans and aliens went about their daily business, a sight that still felt surreal even after 3 days of space travel. Lily clutched her data pad closer to her chest, her 4 fingers wrapping tightly around its edges. The device contained everything she needed to know about her mission: study human culture, document their daily habits, and help build bridges between their species. What it didn't mention was how overwhelming Earth would be, with its riot of colors, sounds, and most importantly, smells. The scents were everywhere, floating through the air in invisible clouds that made her sensitive nose twitch. Back home in the Commonwealth, everything was filtered, purified, and optimized for maximum efficiency. Food was engineered to provide perfect nutrition with minimal taste, a logical approach that had served her species well for centuries. But here, the air itself seemed alive with molecules she couldn't identify. A human official approached her, wearing the blue uniform of the Cultural Exchange Program. "You must be Lily," he said with a warm smile. "I'm Bill, and I'll be taking you to meet your host." His pronunciation of her Earth name was perfect, just as she had practiced pronouncing her host's name: Tom. The drive into San Francisco was an education in itself. Lily's eyes grew wide as they passed countless small buildings with strange symbols and even stranger smells wafting from them. "Those are restaurants," Bill explained, noticing her interest. "Your host runs one of them. He's quite good at what he does." Tom's restaurant was a modest building wedged between a bookstore and a flower shop. A sign above the door read Galaxy Fusion in glowing letters, with a small subtitle that made Lily's translator work overtime: "Where Earth Meets the Stars." The front window displayed various plants and dried items hanging in decorative patterns. When they walked in, Lily's senses were immediately overwhelmed. The air was thick with aromas she had no reference for, making her head spin slightly. A tall human with friendly eyes emerged from behind a counter, wiping his hands on a cloth hanging from his waist. "Welcome to Earth," Tom said, his voice carrying the same warmth she had noticed in many humans. "You must be hungry after your journey." Lily started to explain that she had consumed her nutritional supplements as scheduled, but Tom was already heading back to the kitchen, gesturing for her to follow. The kitchen was a place of organized chaos, with shining metal surfaces and various tools Lily couldn't identify. Steam rose from several pots, and bottles of colored liquids lined the walls. "I've been studying Commonwealth dietary requirements," Tom said as he moved around the kitchen with practiced ease. "I know you folks usually stick to your standard nutrition packs, but I thought you might like to try something special, completely safe for your biology, of course." The exchange program sent over all the specs. Before Lily could politely decline, Tom had placed a small bowl in front of her. The contents were pale blue, a familiar and comforting color, but small flecks of green leaves floated on top. "It's a modified rice porridge," he explained. "The base is made from earth rice processed to match your nutritional needs, with just a tiny hint of herbs. Nothing too crazy for your first day." Lily looked at the bowl, then at Tom's expectant face, and realized that refusing would be culturally insensitive. Part of her mission was to experience human customs, after all. With careful movements, she picked up the eating utensil, a spoon, according to her cultural brief, and took a tiny taste. The sensation was unlike anything she had experienced in her 22 cycles of life. The porridge itself was familiar in texture, but there was something else, something that made her taste buds tingle in a pleasant way. It wasn't overwhelming, just interesting. "This is different," she said carefully, taking another small spoonful. Tom's face broke into a grin. "Different good or different bad?" Lily considered the question as she continued eating. "Different good," she decided. "What are these green pieces?" Just a little parsley, Tom said, his eyes twinkling. Wait until you try basil. As Lily finished her meal, she made her first note in her research log. Humans appear to derive pleasure from adding unnecessary elements to their nutrition. Further investigation required. She had no way of knowing that this simple observation would change not only her life, but the relationship between two civilizations forever. A week had passed since Lily's arrival on Earth, and she was slowly getting used to life at Galaxy Fusion. She spent her mornings documenting human eating habits, fascinated by how much time they devoted to food preparation. Tom's restaurant had become busy with both human and alien customers, making it an ideal place for her research. That afternoon, Tom was preparing for the dinner rush, while Lily sat at her usual corner table, typing notes into her data pad. The kitchen door swung open as servers rushed in and out, carrying plates of steaming food that made her nose twitch with unfamiliar scents. "Could you pass me that red bottle?" Tom called out to his assistant cook. In their haste, the assistant bumped the bottle, and a single drop of bright red liquid flew through the air. Time seemed to slow as Lily watched it land on her finger. Her first instinct was to wipe it off, but something made her hesitate. The drop sparkled in the restaurant's warm lighting, and a tiny wisp of scent reached her sensitive nose. Without thinking, she touched her tongue to her finger. The world exploded. Her eyes went wide as an intense sensation spread through her mouth. It wasn't pain. At least not like any pain she knew. It was heat and light and colors she didn't have names for, all wrapped into one overwhelming feeling. Her head spun, but not unpleasantly. Instead of panic, she felt an unexpected wave of euphoria wash over her. "Lily, are you okay?" Tom's worried voice broke through her daze. He had rushed over with a glass of milk, knowing how his alien customers sometimes reacted to spicy foods. "That was hot sauce. I'm so sorry." But Lily wasn't listening. She was too busy processing the incredible sensations coursing through her body. Her specialized alien taste buds, evolved to detect the slightest chemical variations in food for survival, were processing the capsaicin in ways no human could experience. Each molecule seemed to dance on her tongue, sending sparks of pleasure through her nervous system. What was that?" she asked, her voice trembling with excitement rather than fear. Tom watched her carefully, confused by her reaction. "It's called Dragon's Breath Hot Sauce. It's actually one of the milder ones we have. Are you sure you're all right? Most aliens can't handle any level of spice." Lily looked at the red bottle with newfound fascination. "I feel amazing. How many more of these hot sauces exist?" Tom's worry turned to curiosity. "There are hundreds, maybe thousands of different types. Not just hot sauces, but all kinds of spices and seasonings. Each one has its own flavor profile." He paused, studying her expression. "Would you like to try some more? Safely, I mean. In very small amounts." Lily nodded eagerly, then caught herself. She was supposed to be conducting serious research on human culture, not getting excited about taste sensations. But wasn't this part of human culture too? She could study it scientifically, document the effects, analyze the chemical compositions. "For research purposes," she said firmly, trying to sound professional despite the lingering tingle of euphoria. Tom smiled knowingly. "Of course. For research. Let me close up the kitchen for the afternoon, and I'll prepare a proper tasting session. We'll start with the basics. Black pepper, mild chilies, that sort of thing." As Tom worked in the kitchen, Lily created a new folder in her data pad titled Earth Spice Analysis. She tried to write objective notes about her hot sauce experience, but the words kept turning poetic. Like tasting starlight and a supernova of sensation filled her typically dry scientific observations. The thought of trying more spices made her fingers tremble with anticipation. A small voice in the back of her mind whispered that perhaps she should report this to her superiors in the Commonwealth, but she pushed it aside. After all, she was here to learn about human culture. If she happened to enjoy some aspects of that culture more than expected, that was simply a bonus. Tom returned with a small tray of tiny dishes, each containing a different spice. "Ready to start your research?" he asked with a gentle smile. Lily picked up the first sample, a small pile of ground black pepper. As she brought it closer to her sensitive nose, her heart beat faster with excitement. She had no way of knowing that this moment would change not just her life, but the entire relationship between humans and the Commonwealth forever. "Ready," she said, and took her first step down a path that would never be the same. 2 weeks after her first taste of hot sauce, Lily's research had taken an unexpected turn. Her small room above Tom's restaurant had transformed into a makeshift laboratory. Small jars of spices lined her shelves, each carefully labeled with both Earth and Commonwealth naming systems. Her datapad was filled with detailed notes about every new taste experience. Tonight, she sat cross-legged on her bed, surrounded by her latest experiment materials. She had officially logged it as Research Entry 47, Effects of Wasabi on Commonwealth Physiology, but her private notes told a different story. Her hand shook slightly as she opened the small green container Tom had given her. "Start with a tiny amount," he had warned. "Wasabi is different from regular spices. It hits differently." Lily dipped the tip of her testing probe into the green paste and carefully placed it on her tongue. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sensation hit, not in her mouth, but shooting straight up through her nose. Her eyes widened as waves of pleasure coursed through her neural pathways. The feeling was completely different from the hot sauces she had tried. Where they brought heat that built slowly, this was like an electric shock of pure joy. She quickly grabbed her datapad, her fingers flying over the screen. Wasabi compound creates immediate neural response. Effects travel through nasal passages. Possible connection to Commonwealth upper sensory nodes. Must investigate further combinations. Down in the restaurant kitchen, Tom was cleaning up after closing when he heard quick footsteps on the stairs. Lily burst in, her blue skin slightly flushed and her eyes bright with excitement. "Tom, we need to try mixing wasabi with the red curry paste." Her usual formal tone was gone, replaced by barely contained enthusiasm. Tom looked at her with growing concern. Over the past weeks, he'd watched her transform from a serious researcher into something he'd never seen before, an alien spice enthusiast. "Lily, maybe we should slow down a bit. You've been spending all your time with these experiments." She waved her datapad at him. "But look at these readings. The molecular structure of wasabi combined with curry could create an entirely new sensation. The potential applications are endless." She paused, trying to compose herself. "It's all properly documented for scientific purposes, of course." Tom sighed and reached for the spice cabinet. He knew that look in her eyes, the same one he'd seen in young chefs, discovering their passion for cooking. "All right, but we do this carefully. And you need to eat some real food too, not just spices." As they worked, Lily told him about her latest discoveries. Her species-sensitive taste buds didn't just process the spices. They created new neural pathways with each unique combination. Regular food was beginning to taste bland and uninteresting to her. She craved the complexity of Earth spices, the way they made her feel more alive. "Don't you see?" she said, carefully measuring out portions of curry paste. "This could revolutionize how my people think about food. We've been so focused on nutrition that we forgot about." She searched for the right word. "Joy." Tom watched as she mixed the wasabi and curry together, her movements precise despite her excitement. He had to admit, her enthusiasm was infectious. But he also worried about what might happen if her superiors found out about these experiments. The mixture complete, Lily lifted the spoon to her mouth. Her eyes closed as the new combination hit her taste buds. Tom had never seen anything like it. Her blue skin seemed to glow slightly, and a look of pure bliss spread across her face. "This is incredible," she whispered. "Quick, help me document the effects." Later that night, after Lily had finally gone back upstairs, Tom sat at his kitchen counter and looked at the growing collection of spice jars they'd been experimenting with. He picked up her latest creation, a blend she'd labeled Stellar Fusion No. 12, and smiled. Part of him knew this couldn't end well. The Commonwealth was known for its strict regulations, especially regarding unauthorized chemical experiments. But another part of him, the part that had fallen in love with cooking as a teenager, understood completely. Sometimes, a single taste could change everything. He just hoped Lily knew what she was getting herself into. The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Lily was in the middle of testing a new combination of ginger and Szechuan peppercorns when her datapad lit up with the official Commonwealth seal. Her heart skipped a beat as she opened the transmission. "Researcher Lily, your recent behavior has come to our attention. Other exchange students report you have been experimenting with Earth substances. Your latest research logs show concerning patterns. Return home immediately for evaluation." This is not a request. The pad slipped from her trembling fingers. She had been careful to keep her spice research separate from her official logs, but perhaps she hadn't been careful enough. The changes in her behavior must have been obvious to other Commonwealth visitors to the restaurant. Downstairs, she heard the familiar sounds of Tom preparing for lunch service. The sense of his cooking wafted up through the floorboards, garlic, onions, and the special blend of curry he'd helped her create last week. The thought of leaving it all behind made her feel sick. The kitchen door chimed as someone entered. Then she heard voices, official voices speaking the clipped tones of Commonwealth standard. Her heart began racing faster. "Miss Lily." A firm knock on her door. "This is official read from the Commonwealth Embassy. We need to speak with you." Lily quickly shoved her spice collection under her bed and opened the door. Two Commonwealth officials stood there, their blue skin a shade darker than hers, a sign of their higher rank. Behind them, Tom watched from the stairs with worry in his eyes. "Your experiments with Earth spices have become a matter of serious concern," Official Reed said, stepping into her room. His nose wrinkled at the lingering scent of spices. "We have reports of you displaying addictive behavior. This goes against everything the Commonwealth stands for." "It's not addiction," Lily protested. "It's research. The effects of these spices on our biology could revolutionize how we think about food. Look at these readings." She grabbed her data pad, pulling up charts and neural response patterns. The second official, whose name tag read Mason, cut her off. "The Commonwealth has maintained its nutritional standards for 3 centuries. We cannot risk contamination from alien substances. Think of the chaos if everyone started craving these Earth chemicals. But that's exactly why we need to study them." Lily's voice rose with passion. "Our people don't just eat for survival anymore. We could have both nutrition and pleasure. These spices don't just taste good. They're expanding my neural pathways, creating new connections." "Enough." Official Reed's tone was sharp. "Pack your things. Your transport leaves in 3 hours." Tom, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. "You can't just take her. This is a cultural exchange program. Learning about Earth food is part of our culture." Official Mason turned to him with cold eyes. "Mr. Tom, you have no authority in this matter. Your restaurant is now under investigation for supplying dangerous substances to Commonwealth citizens." "Now wait just a minute." Tom stepped forward, his chef's towel still clutched in his hand. "Everything we've done here is legal under Earth law and the Cultural Exchange Treaty. You can't shut down my restaurant for serving food." The argument was interrupted by the arrival of Bill, the human cultural exchange officer who had first brought Lily to the restaurant. He looked slightly out of breath, as if he had rushed over. "Actually," Bill said, holding up his tablet, "they can't take Lily either. Article 47 of the Exchange Treaty specifically protects the right of exchange students to experience all aspects of host culture, including cuisine. Any attempt to forcibly remove her would violate at least 3 interstellar agreements." The Commonwealth officials exchanged glances. Official Reed's face darkened. "This isn't over. We'll be taking this to the High Council. In the meantime, he turned to Lily. You are forbidden from consuming any more earth spices. After they left, Lily sat at her usual corner table in the empty restaurant, her hearts still racing. Tom brought her a glass of water and sat across from her. What are we going to do? She whispered. Tom's face was serious, but his eyes had a familiar spark, the same one she'd seen when he was creating new recipes. We fight back. If they want to make this about culture and law, then we'll show them exactly how important food is to human civilization. Lily looked at him, then at Bill, who was already making calls to the exchange program's legal team. She reached into her pocket and touched the small vial of her latest spice blend. She wasn't giving up, not when she was so close to understanding something revolutionary about both their species. The back room of Galaxy Fusion looked different after hours. Tom had covered the windows with thick curtains, and the only light came from small table lamps that cast a warm glow over the gathered crowd. Lily looked around at the dozen or so aliens from various Commonwealth worlds, each drawn here by whispered rumors of Earth's forbidden flavors. Welcome to Spice Club, Tom said quietly, closing the door behind the last arrival. First rule of Spice Club: we don't talk about Spice Club. He grinned at the confused looks on alien faces. Sorry, old Earth movie reference. But seriously, we need to keep this quiet. Lily stepped forward, her heart racing with equal parts nervousness and excitement. In the 3 weeks since the Commonwealth officials' visit, she had discovered she wasn't alone in her fascination with Earth spices. Messages had started appearing on her data pad. Careful, coded questions from other exchange students and visitors about her research. Many of you have tried Earth spices already, she began, looking at the gathered faces. Some of you felt guilty about it. Some of you were scared. I'm here to tell you that what we're experiencing isn't wrong. It's a natural reaction to something wonderful. A tall alien with silver-tinted skin raised his hand. The Commonwealth says these substances are addictive and dangerous. Tom brought out a tray of small dishes. Everything here has been carefully tested and documented. Lily and I have worked out safe combinations for different species. We're not here to get anyone addicted. We're here to share something beautiful. Look at these charts, Lily said, projecting data from her pad onto the wall. These are neural scans of my brain before and after trying different spices. The new connections being formed aren't dangerous. They're expanding our sensory capabilities in ways we never imagined possible. One by one, the visitors tried small samples of different spice blends. Tom and Lily had spent days preparing special combinations for each species' biology. The room filled with gasps of surprise and delight as new tastes were discovered. A young female alien with rose-colored skin clutched Lily's arm. How do humans live with such amazing sensations every day? That's exactly what we need to help the Commonwealth understand, Lily replied. This isn't just about taste. It's about experiencing life more fully. The meetings became a regular event. Every few nights, new faces would appear at Galaxy Fusion after closing time. They developed a system of secret messages hidden in regular cultural exchange reports. A request to discuss nutritional standards meant someone wanted to join the group. Weather variations in messages indicated which nights were safe to meet. Tom's cooking skills proved invaluable as he created specialized blends for different alien physiologies. It's like writing music, he explained to Lily one night as they prepared for a meeting. Each species experiences the spices differently, but they all find something meaningful in them. The network grew beyond San Francisco. Other Earth cities with exchange programs reported similar underground spice clubs forming. Lily's research notes were secretly shared among trusted members, helping others understand the science behind their experiences. But not everything was going smoothly. One night, as they were cleaning up after a meeting, Tom noticed Lily's hands shaking as she put away spice jars. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of getting caught." "Well, yes, that too. But I'm scared of how much I've changed. Everything tastes gray and empty without spices now. What if the Commonwealth is right? What if I'm becoming addicted? Tom sat down beside her. Do you remember your first taste of hot sauce? You didn't crave it then. You were fascinated by it. That hasn't changed. You're not addicted to spices, Lily. You've just discovered a new way of experiencing the world. Before she could respond, her datapad buzzed with an urgent message. Her heart's nearly stopped as she read it. Commonwealth High Council launching full investigation into Earth spice consumption. All exchange students to be recalled for testing. Lily looked at Tom, fear clear in her eyes. But underneath the fear was determination. They had built something important here, a movement that was about more than just spices. It was about freedom to experience life in new ways. We need to call an emergency meeting, she said, standing up. If they want to shut us down, they'll have to shut down every spice club on Earth, and there are too many of us now to silence. The tiny camera drone hummed quietly as it recorded Lily's movements. 3 months of spice experiments had led to this moment. The Commonwealth High Council had demanded evidence, and she was going to give them exactly that, just not the kind they expected. Testing session 247. She spoke clearly into her datapad. Subject group consists of 30 Commonwealth citizens from 12 different worlds. All have volunteered for this demonstration. She turned to face the assembled group in Tom's restaurant. Every table was filled with aliens who had been part of their underground spice network. Tom stood at her side, carefully arranging small dishes containing their latest spice blend. They had named it Cognitive Catalyst, a precise mixture of turmeric, black pepper, and a hint of cinnamon, specially formulated for Commonwealth biology. Before we begin, Lily continued, her voice steady despite her racing hearts. All participants will complete a standard Commonwealth intelligence assessment. She had chosen this test carefully. It was the same one used across the Commonwealth for job placements and academic evaluations. As the participants worked through the complex puzzles and pattern recognition problems, Lily felt Tom's hand squeeze her shoulder gently. "You sure about this?" he whispered. She nodded. Months of secret research had led to an incredible discovery. The spice combinations weren't just creating pleasure. They were enhancing neural pathways in ways that improved cognitive function. But she needed proof that would stand up to the strictest Commonwealth scrutiny. 1 hour later, after all tests were complete, Tom served each participant a small portion of the Cognitive Catalyst blend. The room filled with the now familiar sound of gasps and murmurs as the spices took effect. But this time, Lily wasn't interested in their immediate reactions. "Now," she announced, "everyone will take a different version of the same test. The questions are new, but the difficulty level is identical." The results were exactly what she had hoped for. As participant after participant completed the second test, their scores showed remarkable improvement. Pattern recognition speed increased by an average of 40%. Problem-solving ability showed similar gains. "This is incredible," whispered one of the older participants, a respected Commonwealth scientist who had initially come to investigate the spice problem, but had become one of their strongest supporters. "The neural pathways. They're not just being stimulated, they're being optimized." Lily gathered all the data, making sure every detail was properly documented. The camera drone captured everything. The tests, the spice consumption, the results, and most importantly, the genuine reactions of the participants. "Send it," Tom said quietly. "They can't ignore this." With trembling fingers, Lily pressed the transmit button. The complete research package, 3 months of experiments, brain scans, test results, and today's demonstration, shot across space to the Commonwealth High Council. The response came faster than anyone expected. Within hours, her datapad lit up with an incoming transmission marked URGNT, High Council Priority. The room fell silent as she opened the message. Her eyes widened as she read, and suddenly she started laughing. Tom grabbed the pad from her shaking hands and read aloud. "Research findings received. Emergency session convened. Request immediate conference to discuss implications. Preliminary review suggests significant potential for Commonwealth advancement. All recall orders suspended pending full investigation. The restaurant erupted in cheers. Years of rigid Commonwealth dietary regulations had been built on the assumption that their sensitive biology needed protection from foreign substances. No one had ever thought to test if those substances might actually help them. "We did it," Tom said, grinning as he watched the celebrating crowd. "You did it." But Lily was already back at her datapad, fingers flying over the screen. "This is just the beginning," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "Think about it. If this combination of spices can enhance cognitive function, what else might we discover? We need to test different combinations, study long-term effects, explore potential applications. Maybe save the next experiment for tomorrow," Tom suggested gently. "Right now, I think this calls for a celebration." He went to the kitchen and returned with a special dish, the modified rice porridge he had first served her, but this time seasoned with their breakthrough spice blend. As Lily tasted it, she remembered that first day and how far they had come. The Commonwealth would never be the same. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she was already planning her next experiment. 1 year later, a long line of humans and aliens stretched around the block outside Galaxy Fusion. The restaurant sign had been updated to include Commonwealth script, and colorful banners hung from the windows announcing the grand reopening. First official Earth Commonwealth Fusion restaurant. Lily stood in the kitchen, adjusting her new chef's coat, a gift from Tom that matched her blue skin perfectly. The past year had transformed not just her life, but the entire relationship between Earth and the Commonwealth. Her research had sparked a revolution in xenogastronomy, the study of alien cuisine and its effects. "Ready?" Tom asked, appearing beside her with a tray of sample dishes. Each one contained carefully measured combinations of spices, approved by both Earth's Food Safety Administration and the Commonwealth Health Council. "Almost," Lily replied, checking her datapad one last time. The device now displayed an official license from the Commonwealth Institute of Culinary Science, a new organization she had helped create. "Just making sure all the spice ratios are correct for today's guests." The kitchen was bigger now, renovated to accommodate both human and Commonwealth cooking techniques. Special ventilation systems managed the different atmospheric needs of their diverse staff. In one corner, a young human chef was learning Commonwealth temperature control from an alien sous chef, while nearby, a Commonwealth cook practiced using Earth measuring spoons. Bill, now promoted to Director of Culinary Exchange Programs, poked his head through the door. "They're ready for you too. The Commonwealth ambassador just arrived." Lily and Tom walked out into the dining room together. The walls were lined with framed news articles about their story. From the first controversial reports about alien spice addiction to the latest scientific papers on enhanced cognitive function through specialized spice combinations. A special display case held the original hot sauce bottle that had started it all. The ambassador, an elderly Commonwealth official with deep blue skin, rose to greet them. Next to him sat Official Reed and Official Mason, the same ones who had tried to shut them down a year ago. Both looked considerably more relaxed now, though Mason still eyed the spice shakers on the tables with slight suspicion. "Before we begin," the ambassador announced to the packed restaurant, "I want to officially recognize Lily's contribution to both our societies. Her research has opened new paths of understanding between our peoples, and more importantly," he smiled, "she has made Commonwealth food interesting for the first time in 3 centuries. Laughter rippled through the crowd, both human and alien. The strict divisions between their cultures had begun to blur, thanks to the simple pleasure of sharing food. Tom brought out the first course, the same modified rice porridge he had served Lily on her first day, but now perfected through months of research. Each table received portions customized to their species' biology and spice tolerance levels. As Lily watched the reactions, she remembered the secret meetings, the careful experiments, the fear of discovery. Now those same spice combinations were being studied in Commonwealth universities. Training programs were being developed for the next generation of fusion chefs. Even the most conservative Commonwealth worlds had begun requesting Earth spice imports. Carefully regulated, of course. "Try this," Tom said quietly, offering her a small dish. "Something new I've been working on." Lily tasted it carefully, her enhanced senses identifying each component. The base was a traditional Commonwealth protein dish, but Tom had added something that made it dance on her tongue. "Is that star anise?" He nodded, grinning. "Mixed with that Commonwealth herb you showed me last week. What do you think?" Before she could answer, a young alien child at a nearby table let out a delighted laugh after tasting their first spiced dish. The sound made Lily smile. It was the same joy she had felt that first day with the hot sauce. The ambassador raised his glass in a toast. To the future of Earth-Commonwealth relations, built on understanding, science, and he glanced at his spiced drink with amusement, a little bit of heat. As the celebration continued around them, Lily and Tom returned to their kitchen. New recipes needed testing, more combinations waited to be discovered, and tomorrow would bring another group of curious visitors eager to explore the intersection of their cultures. "You know," Lily said, reaching for a jar of cinnamon, "I still haven't tried wasabi with that new Commonwealth spice they sent us." Tom laughed and grabbed his measuring spoons. Some things never changed, and he wouldn't have it any other way.